Welcome back, State of Decay 2 survivors. This is Congrex's Prime coming at you with the airplane crash site and why is it important in State of Decay 1, State of Decay 2 Heartland, and State of Decay 2 Homecoming. Now, Underlaz has put this airplane in front of us for a very long time, and I think I have the necessary credentials to kind of try to explain to you guys what happened here. Let's start with my credentials. As you guys are going to probably start seeing a reel of pictures of me when I was a lot younger and in the U.S. Navy. I worked on several aircraft in my naval career. After my naval career was over with, 10 years in, I went to school and learned how to fly aircraft and also got a college degree in aviation operations. In doing so, I went to several classes, and some of the classes that I took, one of the most memorable one were about airplanes, the study of aircraft disasters and crashes, and how to investigate, how the FAA and the NTSB go about doing their investigations. And one of my last reports that I had to do in that class was about Captain Sully and the miracle in the Hudson. The short version of the story is U.S. Airways Flight 1549 was piloted by the captain called Captain Sullenberger, and he was flying an Airbus A320, and he had double engine failures shortly after takeoff. I think he only had like 3,000, 4,000 feet, and that's not a whole lot of time, and he made a decision to land in the Hudson, and he did something miraculous. And if you guys don't know anything about it, I recommend you catch the movie that Tom Hanks played. It's actually a pretty good interpretation of what happened, and I highly recommend it. It's a very good movie. And there's also interviews with Captain Sullenberger that you guys can find on YouTube and actually hear the story for yourself. It was actually a miracle within itself. One of the worst rated aircrafts to land on water, landed perfectly, and nobody got hurt, seriously injured, and a whole 155 people survived that crash. So it was miraculous. So, like I said, I was captivated by that class, and just before I started working kind of like my main job that I started right after I got out of school and got my aviation certifications for airmen, and also later on I was able to get my AMP, which now they're called AMTs. It's the same thing. It's aviation technicians, or the old days, the way they used to call them is airframe and power plants technician. And that's what I pretty much did in the military itself. And as you guys can see in this video, I'm flying a glider, which is kind of like my hobby away from what I normally do. This is what I enjoy doing, and I wanted to share that with you guys. And I am the only pilot in my family, and everybody thinks I'm crazy, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm sharing this with you guys because I'm truly free when I'm in the air. And anyway, so I feel that I have some knowledge on aviation. I have over 20 years of aviation background. I'm also a pilot, and I'm also a mechanic, so I can kind of give you guys, and I have some schooling as well, and I got a degree in aviation operations. So all together, all combined. And this is why I want to share this particular story with you guys about what I think happened and all the actual things that were actually revealed to us in Update 26. So I think you guys are watching enough of me flying. I'm going to go ahead and start the actual video. All right, guys. So what I want to do here is go over what I think happened in this crash. Now, as you guys know, this airplane is prevalent in State of Decay 1, it's prevalent in State of Decay 2, and it's also now in State of Decay 2 Homecoming. So why do I want to go over the reasons why this exactly happened is because I don't think anybody knows how this airplane crashed. I don't think this has been covered ever. Matter of fact, this will be a Congrex's Prime, Sherlock Prime exclusive. So what I want to do is try to explain to you guys what I think went down with this airplane. Now, let's talk about my prop here. My prop here kind of kind of resembles the airplane that crashed in State of Decay 1, but it really isn't. We know that this is a Boeing 757. It's a narrow body aircraft. It has Rolls Royce engines, but it's for the sake of it being my explanation of what I think happened on this airplane's crash. Um, we're going to use this as a prop, okay? So, what happened in this airplane? And I want to kind of give you guys a little exercise so you guys can start thinking about it. Is what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Anytime that you want to investigate something, you want to ask the questions like where was the root cause? What was the main problem? And there's certain things that are on the ground because I don't have the black box of this aircraft. I don't know what the pilots were saying. I don't know what was the telemetry of the engines. I don't know, what position the aircraft was facing prior to it crashing, or how did it come down. We don't know that. The only thing we know is that you see that in the background of this aircraft, this crash, there's a little mountain range, right? You guys can see that. I'm going to point it with the mouse right now. This right here, this is important, right? Because behind this road, which is about, I don't know, a half a mile or so, there's a piece of landing gear, right? And when I first ran into this landing gear, right, I thought that it was a main mount. And it's not. It's actually the nose. Now, the reason, I think on the labs just drew in a wheel, right? Or what you would call a wheel of an aircraft, right? Or its landing gear. And they just used one thing to represent all three of them. And of course, we all know that aircraft have main mounts and they have nose gear. Nose gear, if they're a conventional aircraft landing gear, which is a tricycle landing gear, you have the nose, and then you have the main mounts that normally sit underneath the wings. The ones underneath the wings are a lot bigger than the ones on the nose. The ones on the nose is just used for steering, right? And the actual weight of the aircraft rests, for the most part, on the main landing gear, right? So that's why when aircraft lands, it lands like this, and it doesn't land like this, right? So for this aircraft, you notice that all three of the wheels look the same. Well, that's kind of like what Undead Labs did. They just generically put something together so they don't have to redraw two different types of landing gears and probably waste memory and resources on something they don't really have to worry about. So for the sake of my explanation here, I'm going to tell you guys what I think happened. Now, the root cause of what this aircraft went down for, I can tell you it wasn't brought down by another aircraft. And the reason I can tell you that is because there's no physical scarring anywhere at the wreckage that's on the ground. There's no bullet holes. There's no missile impact. There's no sign of explosions or nothing until the airplane actually impacted the ground. And I'm going to go through this more in depth when I do my section of this video where we talk about what's on the ground. So we're talking about what I think happened in the air. So the airplane was in landing configuration. So the wheels were out, the flaps were down, and it was probably resting something like this, like a 10-degree nose up attitude. And it was probably getting ready to land somewhere. Now, where, I don't know, because, the only airport I know of is in actual Drucker County. And that's a military airport. And that's the only reference to an airport we have here in the State of Decay. So I don't know where it's going to land. Somewhere where there's an international airport, I would guess. And when the airplane was in its landing configuration, something happened. Don't know what. Rather, there were Zeds in the cabin. Were there, let's say, an insurgent team or some kind of black ops team or some kind of other people that take airplanes? They start with a T because I can't say. This is crazy. It's 2021. I can't even say what could have taken this airplane down because we know what world we live in. Anyway, so bad people that will take airplanes, they start with a T, and to control the airplane, and they crash the airplane intentionally in Trumbull Valley. Now, you would say, okay, well, what are those three things are logical? They're all logical, and they all can happen. Now, We can exclude, like I said, the airplane being taken down by another aircraft, and we can also exclude sabotage because, um, again, the airplane's engines when they're on the ground don't look like they were on fire because they off both engines failed, like what happened to Sully in the Hudson, where he ingested a flock of birds on each side of the engine, which is astronomically impossible, but it happened to him right after rotation, right after taking off, and he had no engines. So that didn't happen. You can look at the engines, and they don't look like they ingested any birds, let alone whether they're on fire or they mechanically failed. The blades are missing. The engines are still on the ground. They're still intact. So that tells me there was no mechanical failure on that respect. So what happened? How did this happen? And how I'm sure how this airplane went down? And how do I know it's in landing configuration? Because when the airplane takes off, right? Before I get that question, like, well, the airplane could have been taken off. Okay, sure. No. As soon as the airplane takes off and it gets about 200 feet of altitude or so, pilots will uh, pull up the landing gear, right? Clean up the landing gear and bring in all the flaps. Once they get the airspeed that they want, so that way they clean up, they have less drag, and they can accelerate even faster to get to a higher altitude quicker. So it didn't happen when the airplane first took off. Plus, there's no airport near Trumbull Valley for that even to be, something plausible. Behind there, as you guys can see, this is an excellent picture. That's why I like this picture. It shows the windmills and it shows the actual ridge line right here, and it looks like this ridge line was impacted by something, but I can't get up there to look, so I don't know. I can't get up there. I wish I can get a bird's eye view of that to see if the actual airplane hit that, but I don't think it did because later on I'll go over the ground stuff. Anyway, so we're in landing configuration, and something happens, and the airplane becomes immediately in a nosedive, probably 90 degrees. And the reason I think it's 90 degrees is because where this nose landing gear is found on the middle of the street here in Trumbull Valley, which I'll go over that in a little bit as well. So what happens is the landing gear was out, the airplane starts to accelerate, descending rapidly, and it passes its never exceed speed. So there is a point of where your landing gear should not be deployed, and it cannot be deployed if you're already cruising at maximum altitude, or if you're, as soon as you exceed that airspeed, the landing gear will not come down. So it had to have been down before that, right? And it wasn't brought down in the last minute. So, because it won't be deployed. So the airplane is exceeding downward, accelerating, and then boom, front landing gear falls off. You're at 90 degrees. The pilot or whoever took control of the aircraft and was able to pitch it back to a level altitude or close to as level as you can, and then passes that little ridge line that's right there, this mountain right here, right? And then the airplane impacts. And when it impacts, I can tell you that the airplane's facing this direction, right? Because I'm going to give you the rear view. You're going to know that the co-pilot side, a co-pilot always sits on the right side of the aircraft from your point of view. So this is the right wing, this is the left wing, this is the pilot side. The side that hits first on impact is going to be the co-pilot side. Now, we're going to find the pylon several hundred, I would say several hundred feet, if not, 50 to 60 yards away from the aircraft, standing on its top side like this, pretty awkwardly put. And then you'll find the landing gear a little bit closer to the aircraft. And then also this wing is completely severed, and it's away from the aircraft. There's also the other engine, the left engine, which is on the pilot side. That's found forward of the aircraft on the pilot side, and also the landing gear is also a little further back as well. So that leads me to believe that that's how the aircraft hit, and that's what happened in that respect. Now, I want to know who made that nose landing gear that landed on this part of the. You guys go over this mountain here. There's a road, right, that connects to Marshall, right? Because Marshall's over here somewhere, and there's a bridge and stuff. And that when this thing hit at the speed that would hit, there should have been pieces of wheels, and maybe the landing gear would have been shattered. There should have been some kind of impact crater, which is not. There's no dragging of the landing gear, like it skidded, like it hit and it skid and it hit something and it stopped there. There's really, it's just like it's just there, like it just fell perfectly on the road, which is kind of odd. But I mean, this is not a crash simulator. This is State of Decay, and this is not a flight simulator. This is State of Decay. So I gotta kind of, you know, just accept the fact that this was designed by game devs that are making a action game, shooters, survivor game versus a flight simulator game or crash simulator. As if we're gonna nitpick the crash, but the crash overall, guys, the crash has done pretty well. Now we're gonna go step back in time a little bit here, and we're gonna go hit State of Decay 1, and I'm gonna explain to you guys where exactly that front nose is at. And I'm going to show you the crash site as it was presented to us in State of Decay 1, Year 1 edition. So without further ado, let's get. All right, so going back in time to State of Decay 1, Year 1 edition, when I first ran into this landing gear, this was the route I took. That I found it here, and as you guys can see, the landing gear sitting there pretty intact. It's made out of some really strong stuff. And it fell, and there's a couple of stress cracks on the actual road itself, but nothing like the kind of damage that thing would have done if it fell at excess speeds of 200 something miles an hour, which was what would require that thing to fly off the nose of the fuselage of the aircraft. So, I mean, yeah, I'm being a little nitpicky about it, but I that's the kind of landing gear I want on my aircraft. If I'm gonna fly one, I want one that, like, when it hits the ground, it stays perfect. But this is the road I was talking about on the way to Marshall on the other side of the bridge. This is the big rock face or mountain or whatever you want to call it that's on the other side. And I remember saying to myself, where the hell is this airplane? There's got to be an airplane. Why would they put a landing gear here? And we're talking about 2011, and I'm looking around for this aircraft. It became a quest, right? And I was like, where's this aircraft, man? I gotta find it. There's gotta be an airplane. Why would they put a landing gear here? And sure enough, since I used to not drive on off-road on State of Decay 1 on my first playthrough, I ran into the next landing gear. This is the one I was talking about that fell off first on the co-pilot side. And then a little bit further down, it's going to be the one that's on the pilot side. And again, it hit, it fell off the plane itself. And you guys can see, start seeing the engine on the right hand side of this picture right here, and it's standing on its top side like that. And the way it's sitting, it's pretty good. There's the other landing gear. That's the pilot side landing gear. And when you look at it again, it's the same landing gear, obviously, but for the sake of this aircraft, and it held together pretty well. And here's the pylon. See the engine. It doesn't look like the engine actually like flamed out or they lost the engine on a mechanical failure. Like I said, there's no sign of explosion. The engine held together pretty well as well. It just fell off the pylon, and it's just sitting on its side there on the impact. And the wing was it's still hanging in there by a thread on the pilot and co-pilot side. I think one of the wings is more severed than the other, and it's more apparent in Heartland than it is in State of Decay 1. Now we're gonna run into our first Easter egg here, and most of you guys that don't know what the Easter egg is the biggest one, and it's been here since the inception of State of Decay, and that is that writing that's on the aircraft, GD-EPH. And the G is actually a designation for a country, and that is a British aircraft. So anything that starts with a G, whatever, doesn't matter what it is a British aircraft. Just like if it's an N, right, for the serial number or Buno number, as we like to call it, it will be N. So it'll be November, blah, blah, blah. So that'll be the serial number for that. So this aircraft is actually a British aircraft, for sure. It's a British civilian aircraft. So I found that to be an interesting tidbit. Now, if I am 100% wrong here, and Undelad didn't intend this to be a British aircraft for storage purposes, then they need to leave a comment below. And here it is, the Dantron box with the biohazard signed, and I think in there's some plates. I'm not entirely sure what the heck is in there, to be honest with you guys. When I looked at this thing, I was kind of puzzled. It looked like a petri dish, maybe some food plates. I don't know. There was something in there, and as you guys can see, it was open. It was open and put on top of this box. Now, I find that to be interesting because, you know, there was a crash, and this looks like it was inside that box. So they pulled the cargo container out. Somebody set it on here and opened this box. Now, who opened the box? I don't know. Under Labs needs to let us know. But as you guys know, Teresi Huerta, she take us to this particular site in update 26, you know, homecoming, and she says that the epicenter of the first plague wall is this aircraft. So Undead Labs dropped a huge Easter egg there. And like I told you guys, I go around this aircraft and I show you the other engine. There's the other wing, and you see the actual fan blade itself is still pretty intact, considering what it went through. There's the wing; it's all dislodged and all jacked up. And like I said, this airplane is in pretty good shape, all things considering. And that's the State of Decay 1 portion of this investigation. So let's fast forward to the future. Apparently there was a bus here. This is update 26. This is homecoming. A bus tried to run over the landing gear, and again, the super strong landing gear that I want on all my airplanes is still there, and it actually took a bus out. I tried to do some investigation to see if this actual landing gear actually hit something on the way down, but as you guys know, that truck wasn't there before. They added that in, and this door looks pretty intact. I don't see any like scar marks on the ground. Again, I was trying to figure out if you know, I missed something in State of Decay 1, and there was any other clues on how exactly this landing gear, from nose landing gear, got there. So, and of course, just like you know, you're trying to do something, and the zombies they're curious creatures. They need to investigate and try to take a bite out of you. So we're gonna take the Queen's noble steed, and we're gonna drive kind of the similar path as I did with Gorbani in State of Decay 1, and we're gonna go ahead and see what the crash site looks like in update 26, what the differences are, and what did they add in. The trees are still there. They're kind of slanted and tilted. Apparently, from State of Decay 1 to Heartland, there was a gap of something like 18 months or 12 to 16 months, 12 to 18 months, and then this is like 6 months after that. So it's been like 2 years ish or so, and the amount of decay on the crash site is pretty extensive. As you guys can see, the engine's still there. It's standing kind of weird. There's this weird growth on it. It just passed a special gun case. If you guys haven't found it, that's where it's at. And again, the actual number, the side number of the aircraft is gone. It's been deleted. It's only in State of Decay 1, but the box is there. The box that had the biohazard in State of Decay 1. And I'm gonna throw some conclusions out there for you guys. This is just something to think about. I think that we know for a fact that the plague walls were started here. This was the first plague wall. Maybe the plague zombies came from the plague walls themselves, and so that the plague hearts, they extended out, you know, past the valley and went to different places. And this is the problem. The problem is this, you know, this pharmaceutical company that apparently either had a bioweapon or just a virus that they were experimenting on that somehow got loose. We don't know how. They don't say how, but at least we have a reference point that kind of points in the direction that Trumbull Valley and State of Decay 1 was the epicenter of everything. At least we know that much. At least that's what I can presume with a little tidbit that they gave us. When you actually hit that box, you get a pilot's hat, and it tells you like, hey, pharmaceutical, whatever the company, what is this about? And then of course, the big drop of Teresa Welter when she said, hey, the epicenter was here, and when the people killed this first plague wall, something happened. And then she's trying to figure out like what the connection is. So like I said, guys, I can throw my head out there and say that the epicenter of the plague walls was here, and Undead Labs keeps pointing to this airplane, and they keep telling us something is amiss because of this airplane, because I think this is gonna be where everything started. And anyway, guys, I know this is a little long-winded, and hopefully you enjoyed this content as much as I enjoyed making it. If you guys liked the video, please do me a big favor and hit the like button. Also, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think about my theories, and also my breakdown of the actual crash itself, and where the origin of this airplane is obviously Great Britain, and the reasons why I think that. I demonstrated that, and also where I think this is where it all went down. This is where it all started, and I have a feeling that Undead Labs is not done telling the story of State of Decay and where these blood plague zombies and these zombies came from, and the reason why they're around. Obviously, there's a guilty party, and I hope we get to find that out before State of Decay 3 comes out, or maybe, just maybe, we'll find out at the end of State of Decay 3. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for all your support. You guys have a great day or night. Like, live in peace. Congrexes taking off the tinfoil hat. Checking out.